Habari Gani and Kwanzaa greetings and blessings to all who are gathered. You're watching Kwanzaa, a Modern Celebration 2023. I am Chanda Branch, cultural creative and founder of several entities, but here and now we are under the umbrella of Modern Black Mommy, where we are lifting Black moms and raising Black kids who are safe, smart, happy, healthy, wealthy, and whole. I'm so glad that you have decided to join us. We are in our second season of celebrating Kwanzaa together in this streaming format. And since we last met, we have grown and expanded. Now, way back in 2020, I authored Your Guide to a Modern Kwanzaa Celebration. And my book is now available on Amazon for your e-reader and for digital download. It's an amazing resource for anybody who wants to introduce this joyful and intentional holiday tradition into their home, but is especially written with Black moms in mind. Now, this book is not just informative, it contains the script for ceremonies, meditations for each night, and even some ideas and suggestions about how you can apply a modern sensibility to your celebration while honoring the traditional nature of the holiday. And since then, I've also designed a modern Kwanzaa coloring book featuring illustrations for the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, but that wasn't enough. I followed that up with a keynote address for the Black Speakers Network called Kwanzaa 365, where I teach in detail how to move from celebrating Kwanzaa for 7 days to fully instituting Kwanzaa as a lifestyle in your home, on the job, or in the community. Information about all of those is available right here on my Flow page. The information is up on the screen. You can simply scan or you can visit flow.page/Kwanzaa celebration. That's flow.page/Kwanzaa celebration. Each night, we will hold a candle lighting ceremony to uplift the principles associated with the holiday. As our candles burn, we will have discussion with some amazing individuals who are leading families, communities, thought, industries, and the nation. Now, the conversations will be rich, and we will have the opportunity to ask ourselves some important questions about who we are and where we are as a people, and how we can progress through struggle. In African tradition, we always seek the permission and the blessing of elders before we begin anything. This assures that we are in good order and that we are going forward in the proper direction. I've consulted with and been encouraged to go forward by the elders I hold dear, and they have blessed this proceeding. I assure you that we have prepared well and we will go forward in excellence. So with the blessing of our esteemed elders, we will bless our beginning with the Tambiko ceremony, or the pouring of libation. This is to honor the ancestors, those who were family and friends, as well as those who were collective or cultural icons. It is good to speak their names and name their legacy among those remaining. As I raise my cup and pour, all gathered should repeat Ashe, which means it is so. We gather at this moment to celebrate Kwanzaa. With the permission of our beloved elders, we begin the evening with the pouring of libation. As we pray and invoke the blessing of our ancestors, remember that this is a solemn, serious moment, one that requires your focus and positive intentions. Be present in this moment as we pay homage to those who have paved the way for us. Here and now, before the all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-present Creator, we pour. Ashe. For our ancestors, those we knew and loved and respected on this earth, those related by blood and those acquainted by the heart, and those who were part of the cultural landscape, we call out their names and we pour. Ashe. For the ancient ones who knew our native land, our motherland, we pour. Ashe. For those who toiled as enslaved humans, whose names we may never be able to call, we pour. Ashe. For those who were bound in the grips of Jim Crow and made a path for us nonetheless, we pour. Ashe. For those who have lost their lives in unjust ways, to violence, to substance abuse, and for all those who lost their lives before they began, we pour. Ashe. For those who only recently left this earth to join the ancestors, we pour. Ashe. For the present moment of celebration and all who are gathered in reverence to commemorate our collective past and recommit to a better way of living, we pour. Ashe. For our children and our children's children and their children after them, we pour. May we build well now so that they can someday pour for us. Ashe. For the issues on our hearts, spoken aloud at this moment, we pour. Ashe. And now we return to the beginning, to the Almighty Creator, where all things begin and end in time. We pour and we say, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Thank you so much for participating in that ceremony with me. Any of the names that you called aloud, any of the concerns or the issues on your heart that you called aloud in that ceremony or that you want lifted up, You can always feel free to place those in the chat. Um, as in past years, we'll put together a video to help us commemorate our ancestors and those who have gone before us in a really beautiful way. That ceremony is always so moving, and it really helps me to center and bring into focus the reasons why we celebrate Kwanzaa, bringing forward the memory of our ancestors and everything that we have been through as a people helps me understand what my obligations are to struggle forward, to learn all that I can, and to do all that I can to help envision and create the world that I want and that we deserve. So now let's prepare for our very first candle lighting of Kwanzaa this year. We are in night one, which means we will be celebrating Umoja, which is unity. So when I call out Habari Gani, which is Kiswahili for what's the news, you will reply with Umoja, which is also Kiswahili for unity. Now, today we will also light the very first candle, which is the black candle in the center. We always begin there, and we will always return here in subsequent nights. Are you ready? Habari Gani, Umoja, Umoja, unity. Umoja means unity. To strive for and maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. Our guest tonight for the first night of Kwanzaa is one who is familiar to us. He was a guest with us way back in 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Raleigh City Councilor Corey Branch. He's a native of Raleigh and has served Raleigh as District C council member and mayor pro tem, with a focus on improving the availability of housing for those of all incomes, a modern and reliable transit system, economic development for underserved communities and populations, and programs to aid and assist in development of our youth and in young adults in Raleigh. Corey attended Wake County Public Schools throughout his matriculation and continued his education at North Carolina A&T State University, graduating in 2000 with a degree in electrical engineering. He exemplifies Aggie pride by giving financially, and he returns often to Greensboro for special events and sporting activities in support of the institution that contributed so much to his development as a leader, a thinker, and a doer. He serves at Baptist Grove, where he worships, and he is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Truly, Corey appreciates the opportunity to represent his native District C as City Council member, and he has some exciting news to share with us about that. But here's where I get excited about Corey's bio. Corey is my husband. He's married to me, y'all. He's married to me for the last 10 years. We have a beautiful daughter, Carly, who just celebrated her 5th birthday. She is the joy and the light of our lives. And as a family, we enjoy traveling and relaxing, sports. We love Netflix. We love good food, good conversation. And I am thrilled that Corey Branch is here with me. And as a special surprise, y'all, dun, 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 he is live in the studio. I didn't have to even Skype him in. Look at that. Y'all, welcome, Corey.
Thanks for having me.
Happy Kwanzaa.
I'm glad I was able to come to the room.
I have kept him out of here all this time. But tonight, I am so excited that you are here. And I am especially excited that you are returning to Kwanzaa. Recap for me how you remember that first streaming episode that we ever did.
It was interesting. It was an adventure. You were all over the place. But you had great help. You had a great team that was working with you. Unfortunately, one of the team members is no longer with us.
Mhm.
Um, but just, that teamwork, that's what
Mhm.
pulled it off. Because you thought of it really almost last minute,
Yes,
and
very
pulling
last
it
minute.
together.
That's the truth. And what I appreciated was the immediate response of yes. Everybody was like, "That's a fantastic idea. Let's do it." And everybody just kind of pitched in and helped me. They jumped in front of their cameras and agreed to interview, and we had a great time. And this season, season two has proved to be no less enthusiastic. Like I'm still getting yeses from people. They're a little slow
Definitely.
rolling in because people are busy. Like the world is open again.
Yeah.
You remember in 2020, I think part of it was like, we don't have anything else to do.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot going on dealing with COVID, and
Hmm.
not knowing the impacts COVID was going to have on our lives, and just
Hmm.
trying to, maneuver. And I think people being in place then kind of help with that accessibility. And people are starting to get used to Zoom calls after Zoom calls,
That is,
from going forward.
yeah. Well, so since we started there, we started with the conversation around what 2020 looked like. Y'all remember 2020? We remember what 2020 looks like in terms of unity, which is our theme for the night. Let's talk a little bit about like how things have shifted. And we didn't know in 2020 that we were still in the throes of COVID. We honestly thought we were on the back end of that and that we were ready to emerge and we were coming back outside. We found out differently, and there have been some long lasting effects. So now that we're here in 2023, do you have a different perspective about what the pandemic did to Black families and communities?
Definitely, I think it. There was some positive things that occurred,
Hmm.
and also I think some negative. I think some families, COVID, it brought them so close together, it almost brought them apart.
Mm.
Because when you're constantly going and doing, and everyone all gets in their own routine and their own groove of doing their own thing, and then COVID says stop, come together,
Hmm.
and some people knew how to adjust, some didn't. I think coming out of this, mental health is something that we've probably paid more attention
Hmm.
to making sure that everyone gets the assistance and the hope and the help that they need, to address things. It's okay to reach out for counseling. It's okay to talk to someone that's not living in your life day to day
Yeah.
to help you cope with those challenges. But at the same time, and bringing us together, I think people got a better understanding of their loved one, a better understanding of relationships. And also, you learn to appreciate people a lot more.
That's what I was
Um,
thinking.
you know, I think back, being an A&T grad that you mentioned, a lot of friends out of that would always say, well, I'll make it to the next homecoming. I'll make it to the next homecoming. I think people took the time to say, you know what? I'm not going to push things off.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and do it now. Let me take that trip with my family.
Hmm.
Let me spend that time. Let me go ahead and go back to school,
Yeah.
if that's my dreams. So I think that intentionality out of COVID is something that's been very helpful.
I think you're right. I think that when you speak about appreciating people, we lost a lot. We lost a lot of people, and they weren't just elders. They weren't just seniors. They weren't. We lost a lot of people, our own age, our peers, and we've lost people since then. And I think that you know, the understanding that tomorrow's not promised. We don't know what the future holds. And so we have to act and behave in ways that we are able to just enjoy our lives and enjoy the gift that living is. I think that's something that definitely came out of that. And in 2023, looking back, I definitely see that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 2023 has been a very challenging year. Um, I've lost some very close friends, this past year. My father had been
Hmm.
sick, this past year, but he's doing well
Hmm.
now. He's home. So 23, I think for me has been very intentional in recognizing what's really important. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really the people you're around, the lives that you touch, material things that come and go.
Yeah.
But it's those relationships. And I think the key is the way we keep a person alive
Mm-hmm.
is remembering the good times, but remember the things that motivated them some.
Yeah.
You know, if they were a giving person, if they were out, take up that initiative.
Yeah.
You know, take that and say, you know what, I normally don't do this, but such and such did this, so I'm going to do this, you know, and interject this. And this is my way of remembering them.
Right. To honor them and to lift up their memory in a significant way. I love that so many people have gone from like, don't send flowers, make a donation to this entity. Those kinds of things show that their loved ones really understand what was
Mm-hmm.
important to them and want to perpetuate that and move that forward. So, as we're talking about 2023, we have had to like show some exceptional unity as a family. So, like, how exactly do we pull together as a family? And that's not only just examples from our day to day lives, but also, what are some things that might be good practices for everybody?
I think the first thing is being more intentional and calling somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have loved ones, we have friends that we may not see every month, every week, or whatever. But you know, it's great to text, but sometimes it's good. Pick up the phone, make that phone call,
Yeah.
hear that voice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's that connection, that familiarity that you have with one another. You know, visiting people when you can. I've had some good conversations with friends the last couple of weeks, and we said, we're going to be more intentional, you know,
Yeah.
and just getting together and just spending time. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's not about work, it's not about business. It's just, you know, especially as Black men,
Yeah.
of us just getting
Yes.
together and just spending time. We've talked about connecting with people, our friends that have kids,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to make sure our daughter has an opportunity to interact and have time. And we're going to be doing something, you know, next year, already, you know, as a family,
Yep.
you know, and spending time and things of that nature. So I think it's just real important to be intentional. And that's where you get better understanding
Mm-hmm.
of you know what's going on, and then you notice when something's off. You
Yeah.
notice when
Yeah,
something's
that's true.
different. So you can speak to it and kind of go from there.
That's absolutely right. And I think that the nature of our busy lives, being two working parents who also have political and social lives to keep up with, I think that the intentionality for us, right down to like the shared calendar, knowing where
Yeah.
everybody is and who's got appointments this week and who's going to be responsible for getting Carly to the next point and how our extended family plays into that. We have to be real intentional and clear about like what our needs are and what's supposed to be happening so that we can get to that, because thank God for in-laws
Yeah.
and in-loves and grandparents and godparents and that village that's around
Right.
us that is also working in tandem. We could not do
A village is helping us now do this because
exactly,
you know
exactly.
Carly's with family members
Hmm.
and everything, so that we you know we can record and do this work. But she's also getting the same love and attention
Hmm.
and training
Yeah. Uh-huh.
that is needed.
Yeah. So it's a village, but it's a village of like-minded people who we know have the same values and the same principles
Hmm.
that we do. As we speak about Kwanzaa and the seven principles. So let me ask you this next one: does the same apply for community? Do you think that it's about intentionality and being very meticulous in the scheduling and the thought process and what goes into it and being like-minded? Do you think the same goes for a community, or are there some different hallmarks that we need to look for?
It's both. I think the things that are the same is being out in the community,
Mm.
being out, seeing each other. We were just the other day when we were at the store, we stopped to get something to eat, and I ran to an old classmate.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do that if you're just sitting at home ordering the food and having it delivered to your house.
Yeah.
So it's about going out and interacting with one another, and being that assistance and being that aid. Everybody's at different places in lives.
Mm-hmm.
And someone always told me is that you need to have people in different places in your life,
Yeah.
around you, so you don't lose sight of where you've been, but you
Yeah.
also have hope of where you want to go, and things of that nature. So it's real important as a community. And community is not just the 4 blocks or 5 blocks that you live on. Community is not just the city you're in. Community is anyone that you connect with, anywhere that you go. We have family and friends in other states.
Yeah.
That we can always just pick up the phone and say, how you doing? All right, hey, I'm coming to town. And instead of having to get in a hotel room, they're like, stay here with us.
Mm-hmm.
And things of that nature. So that's what community. And I think having that exposure,
Yeah.
it then opens your eyes to possibilities and opportunities. Because sometimes we can get so bogged down by just our location or just
Yeah.
our city.
Yeah.
But also it means making sure that you can have impact locally, because the biggest place where we have the most impact is always going to be local. But don't forget about what's happening in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You got people who are fighting, who are starving. Everyone doesn't have the benefits of what we have in the US, and everyone in the US doesn't have the same benefits either.
That's true.
So when we talk about unity and we talk about coming together, it's all about finding the thing that you can do,
Mm-hmm.
because no one person can do it all.
Mm.
So it's going to take all of us. It's going to take team. And that's what I think about when I think about community, when I think about going out, not just Raleigh, Durham, Cary, Nightdale, but, what about Charlotte? What about DC? What about Boulder, Colorado?
Yeah.
Think about the different places you've been and experience. All of those things lead up to who we are. And that's really community.
And I think there's so much to learn. So when I think about community, I think in terms of the different bubbles of my life that sort of bump into other bubbles. And I was having some conversation with folks the other day, and I was like, well, have we reached out to anybody else who's going through the same thing? And in my mind, that was the most natural next step to help us address what's going on here. I needed to know what was happening in a similar community elsewhere. So if there's somebody that I can reach out to there and exchange information or get some tips or tricks, I do it with my mommy circle all the time. I will call people and be like, is anybody else's baby doing X, Y, and Z? Or is anybody else experiencing such and such? Like, why won't she do this? Or why can't I get her to? And sometimes reaching out to other moms, especially when I was new to motherhood, having my own mom was one thing. But your own mama is gonna give you exactly
how they raised you,
exactly what they got,
you.
right?
Yeah.
And so, when my mom didn't breastfeed, I did. And so I couldn't go to her for that information because she didn't have a touch point with it. And so, I built my own community around that. And I'm telling you, I got a million tips, a million tricks. I got all the hacks. I got all the stuff. I mean, right down to sisters offering to bring milk to my house, their own milk. Like they were like, well, the baby not gonna go hungry. We're gonna take care of this, but let's figure out along the way. So reaching into other what you think are separate communities,
they're all connected.
They're all connected. I love the fact that we as Black people too are very, very giving. And in terms of our knowledge base and our wisdom, we are willing to sit down and share with you. And, I just appreciate that. I don't know that that happens in other cultures. I hope it does. But I know for a fact that as Black people, we are always willing to sit down and explain how something works or how we did it, how we got over.
Yeah, I mean, even if we're wrong, I mean, I'm not perfect. There's some things I've explained and it wasn't right, but when I said it, it sounded like it was 100% right.
It sounded good in the moment.
It sounded good in the moment, but the key is in unity and all of that, being willing to even admit when you are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
because it shows that humility
Mm-hmm.
that you have and that you care. I think that's the main thing of uniting people understanding that you care.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that too is innate to our
Yeah.
culture. We care deeply about ourselves. We care deeply about our families. We care deeply about our communities. And I think a lot of times that's why you see people like really raising a ruckus and people are like, why don't they calm down somewhere? And I'm like, no, they're
It's
passionate
passion.
about their community and they want to draw people together to get to the best result. So I never fought people for being passionate. even even
Yeah.
sometimes when it's aimed the wrong way or when
Yeah.
it's not maybe projected the way that I would do it, I still have to respect the passion that they are bringing to the table, into the
Yeah.
conversation.
And sometimes that's when you see the emotion, you recognize it, but you listen to the words,
Hmm.
because the words will tell you sometimes, another even more information and more message, because sometimes people get caught up in the emotion of
Yeah.
how it looks and
Hmm.
how they're acting and their tone,
Hmm.
but they forget to listen to the words.
Yeah. Yeah. That listening can do a lot to help us come together and unify. Come on, just listen sometimes. So I want to know. I know you've seen a lot of work in the community taking place, and I want to ask you about when you've seen something that has truly been effective. Like when have you truly seen a community come together and unify for a purpose?
I'm going to use Pastor Christopher Jones
Hmm.
with Ship of Zion Church.
Hmm.
They opened a store on South Center Street, um, but it started first giving food away.
Hmm.
But then they recognized this, they were working with people who are unhoused or people who are maybe coming out from incarceration.
Hmm.
They may not have the attire or the means to take care of themselves. So in opening this store, this establishment, it gives them a chance to come in and get something to help them
Yeah.
and move them forward. That's one step. I know there's others where people have gone and work with our young people.
Hmm.
Work with kids as a group. Team Truth 919, and I know Catch the Kite,
Yeah.
and they're working with our young men and women. Our teenagers, our kids, and they really have done a lot to try to come together, meet with the young people on one night, but meeting with the parents
Mm.
on another night. So there you have that whole family.
Hmm.
And then this where you talk about a unit and forming that unity. So if you want to help people improve and restore and keep hope, those are some of the things. And I think, out of the sad incident that happened at Southeast Raleigh High School, I saw the community try to come together
Hmm.
and work. A lot of times people say, well, where's this group or where's that group? Well, at that time, all the groups were there.
Right.
And
Right.
I think sometimes we get caught up in past hurt and
Hmm.
past pain
Hmm.
that we miss what's directly before us
Right.
and
New
what's directly in front of
opportunities.
us. And sometimes we just have to take a deep breath and reset. And in that reset, give people space and grace,
Yeah.
to come forward and help. So those are different avenues and things I've seen throughout the community and throughout the city.
Hmm. So you already touched on this one a little bit, but what are some of the resources that are out there that maybe folks are not taking advantage of, but could help us unify? Um, Organizations, individuals, programs, things that are happening that could give us an opportunity to come together and to figure out what the next best step is.
Well, there's a lot of groups out there working in mentoring youth. There's a young lady, Tatiana Cooper,
Hmm.
working with young ladies in high school. Sage, she has a big waiting list.
Hmm.
She has over 100 girls on her waiting list. She's working with 25 right now. I think, making sure that we can, a lot of times we talk about a group or an area that needs help, but sometimes we forget about helping those who are doing the work.
That part.
Um, and I
That
think
part.
from a unity standpoint, being able to do that, I know We always talk about the YMCA, the Boys Club, but we also got to remember Helping Hand Mission and the work that they do in touching lives and touching people. Continue. We still have a lot of churches out here doing great work. I know Redeeming Love has a place for seniors, and they meet almost like every day around noon. At least I know they meet on Wednesdays, so that's usually when they ask me to come to just talk and socialize and interact. And I think those are good avenues and things. And then we have, groups across the city, in other areas, in the other communities, over at Method Road doing work. Out in Briar Creek, there's organizations that are meeting at the community centers, and the churches and in the community. So, I mean, there's a lot. One thing about the city we're in, Raleigh, is not a sleepy town.
No.
There's always something going on. And sometimes that gets people caught up because you have 4 or 5 events going on at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And I haven't figured it out. But if someone else can on how to duplicate yourself and be at multiple places at the same time, let me know. But I'm just one person, one unit. So I think, what we can do to share information, going to different websites, doing searches. There are a lot of groups for those that maybe need mental health, those that need housing assistance, Triangle Family Services, Passage Homes, the HIC. There's a lot of different things and opportunities, from young people to our seniors, to the unhoused, to those who are housed.
Yeah.
And then we got to think
struggling to keep that
housing. And those that are struggling to keep their house and doing those things. But also there's some people out here who are doing well. They're doing good. They're starting businesses, and we have to make sure we support those businesses, and the things that are going on, and those entrepreneurs. I think about Johnny Hatchett and the work that he's done. And people know when you start a business, you may start one, may not work out right. They start another. I mean, we look at, Bill Gates with Microsoft. Microsoft wasn't his first business.
No.
Anyone that uses seasoning on their food, Heinz 57. 57 wasn't their first recipe. It's Heinz 57 for a reason.
Right.
So we just have to continue to do that and give that grace.
Well, and now we also have some organizations whose purpose is to simply be connectors for all of the other individual organizations that are doing work, sort of like clearinghouses.
Yeah, I mean, I think of the Southeast Raleigh Promise. They do a lot of work in trying to bringing organizations and groups together. I think there's a big focus on government to do that. And I think governments now, especially local governments, they're shifting because times are changing.
Yeah.
And our city is growing. So there's a lot of things that were done in silos that they're trying to shift, and sometimes it's hard. It's not just turning one aircraft carrier, it's turning multiple aircraft carriers and get them in the same line, in the same order, and same sync to help move everyone forward. And it's difficult. It's not easy.
Yeah. And I think that something you mentioned just dropped back in my spirit. And when you talk about there's 5 events happening on the same day, I know this is something that we talked about not too long ago, because Black Santa Santa Blair came to town, and Santa Blair was here. He was there. He was everywhere. He was on the sleigh, and his Rudolph was like, his chief elf had him in all the places. And I remember talking to my husband and saying, wouldn't it be fantastic if everybody brought their event to one location, and like the whole city could have one fantastic experience all together? And we talked about some of the challenges that come along with like getting groups or getting organizations. It's a little easier to get individuals to unify and come together and to all focus on something. But when you're dealing with this organization has to get with this organization, and there's some challenges that come along with that. What do those look like?
I mean, everyone they have their own chiefs. They have their own insurance forms that have to be filled out. They got to get permission from different higher ups to work with this group or that group, because everyone's trying to protect their brand. And sometimes I think in us trying to protect our brand and who we are, we lose our brand because we lose it in the minutia of paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we have to get back to, and we really want to talk about unity, is saying, okay, we understand the event, we understand what you're trying to do. How can we work? How do we get to yes?
Yeah.
I think that's the key. And if we want to continue to work together and bring groups together, how do we get to yes? But also is communication, coordination. If an organization has to go up 15 levels high before they can get a sign off, to send 2 people to an event, well, how much time do you need to start that
Right.
conversation?
Right.
So, given that upfront notice
Mm-hmm.
of, hey, this is what we want to do. I'll say anyone, if you're trying to plan, get Santa Blair back for next year. I know he's busy right now,
He's
getting the
tremendously
sleighs
busy.
and everything going. But that's a conversation to start on, later this week,
Yeah.
of organizing for the next year. All right, anything you're trying to do this summer, for Juneteenth,
Mm-hmm.
organizing now. Or, African American month, or Native American month,
Mm-hmm.
Hispanic month, whatever it is, working and organizing now, but also supporting each other.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be African American to support Kwanzaa.
I was just
You
about
know,
to I was just about to name it. The thing that you just said, you talked about African American Heritage Month. You talked about Indian American Heritage Month. There's Pacific Islander Heritage. Everybody has these individual highlights, and people sometimes get twisted or get offended. Well, they did this for this, and they didn't do it for that, and they did. Well, what if we all showed up to everybody's stuff? What if everybody came out for the Greek Fest? What if everybody came out for Hispanic Heritage Month and all the festivals and the really cool stuff that they have then? What if everybody was a part of everything?
mm-hmm.
I think that the level of unity that we could show by learning from each other and by appreciating everybody's individual cultures, I think would take us a long way.
Yeah, it's about respecting it. Even
Mhm.
if you can't show up or whatever, respecting that culture, because once you want someone to respect yours,
Right.
and in order to receive respect, you got to give it.
Hmm.
And sometimes it doesn't matter who's first, just do it.
Right.
And sometimes I think we get caught up on who's first, who's second, who's third. Just do it.
Yeah.
That's something I've been trying to be more intentional on. And some of the things, since I've had a little break
Hmm.
here, just refocusing and setting about how to just be intentional, move forward. And, sometimes you got to clean up and clean out.
Hmm.
But in doing that, don't forget who you are.
Right. I think something, well, and not forgetting who we are, I think that there is tremendous credit to be paid to the Black church and the entity that it is, because Big Mama didn't have to go through 7 deacons to cook sweet potato pies and sell them to
Mm-hmm.
raise money for, whatever
Right.
the effort was. The one that I always use is Brother Martin coming to town. They didn't have to like get permission to do what they were going to do
Mm-hmm.
to raise the money. They just all got together, and if there wasn't enough sugar, somebody went in their store and got sugar. If they needed canned peaches, somebody went in their stash and pulled out the canned peaches. Everybody contributed in a very stone soup manner, and there was not a hierarchy to fight with or to have to fight through and get clearance from all of these things. You could just contribute. You could just do the thing that was right to do in that moment. So I think that we are going to have to go back to the big mama mentality in some of this, and just,
Right.
that baby is hungry, so pack a little something extra and your baby can share, and just dropping off a coat at the school, just dropping off a little extra, um, wherever you're gonna be donating, just knowing that there's somebody who's going to be in need, and you don't need permission always to be helpful.
And also making sure, if you're not the one doing, we're not judging the person who is.
Mm,
um
preach.
it's about showing that support and that respect, to the person who, at least they're trying. A lot of times people do get it wrong,
Hmm.
but what effort did they take? What are
Right.
they trying to
Right.
do? I always tell, someone told me a long time ago, if not me, who? If not now, when?
Hmm.
And that's what continues to drive me in everything that I do.
Well, since you took it there, let's talk more about everything that you do, because you are council member Corey Branch, the City Council representative to District C for the last 9 years.
8 going into the 9th.
Okay, well, we're gonna take credit for the 9th year. I'm gonna give you that. I'm gonna
That
bless you
works.
with that
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 works.
other year. But I have the unique position of having been there for every single election, for every single term, even the one that we didn't get the most votes in. I won't say we lost it, but even the one that you didn't get the most
Right.
votes in. And so I just want you to talk a little bit about how the concept of unity and how unifying District C has always been at the forefront of your work as a council member.
So for me, being born and raised here, I've seen a lot of the challenges
Hmm.
that people face. Um, I understand those that, have a hard time going out getting clothes. Was unknown to a lot of people that even, both my parents worked and everything. But even growing up as a kid, I would used to get clothes from my neighbor that my mom would go through, see what I could wear and for school because they were still trying to make ends meet. Both of
Hmm.
my parents from Eastern North Carolina. So, and they moved here after my